Once you've recorded your TC arrow, you can go back, add fancy words. Notice we can add adjectives, and also we added figurative language here. We actually went back and said, well, what did it look like when your dog was spinning around and around in a circle? He could look like a tornado, so we're using similes. He was spinning around like a twister. So we could add some figurative language, and in this case, we added a simile. Our movie script has a beginning, middle, and end. The beginning is a story opening, SC arrow. The middle has TC arrow, the action, what happened next. Finally, we're going to have the end of our story, and again, it's going to have TC arrow, same secret formula. The end, action, what happened at the end of the story. We go to our ending box, we look at TC arrow, and we're always going to fill in the C first. Character. At the end, who is this action about? It's about my dog. I already used dog. I already used he. Let's use a synonym. And in this case, we had mutt, like my silly mutt. So we have our mutt, and then we went to, what did your mutt do in this picture? He fell to the ground. He collapsed and fell to the ground. So we go back and we're filling in our action. After that, we go to our transition. And we decided in this case to use a sound effect. Plop, splat. So we recorded a few words that we can choose from as we make our sentences. Beginning, middle, end. All of our pictures have been translated into secret formula sentences. We now have our vocabulary words embedded in here. We have our fancy words that we've also added to our sentences. And finally, the last thing we can do is go back and add punctuation. How do we start this off? One day. Let's write the word one and put 3 lines under it so we can remember we need to capitalize. We've added the word one and capitalized it, knowing that it's our beginning sentence and it needs to start with a capital. Let's read our sentence so far. One night in my cozy house. After I have my setting, one night in my cozy house, what do I need? A comma. After my setting phrases. My silly dog, my playful dog, so my playful dog was attracted to his fluffy tail. And then I'll add my period. Go to the next sentence. Suddenly, he chased his tantalizing tail around and around in a circle like a tornado. So I have my period at the end. Let's go to the end. Plop. Oh, look, that's an emphatic statement. So not only am I going to capitalize there, I'm going to put an exclamation point, and that's going to be the end of that because it's an emphatic statement. It's a word that can stand, or a couple of words that can stand on their own. Stop. Come here. Plop. My, so I'm going to put the word my to remind myself I have to capitalize. Plop. My mutt collapsed to the ground, dazed and confused. And there's the end of my sentence. So I'm putting my capitals, my commas, I'm putting my stops in my sentence where they belong. I'm orally rehearsing using motions over and over again. We now have our movie script completed using the secret formulas and translating these pictures, which are ideas that you form, into sentences. So we have day 1, day 2. Now we're going to go to day 3. On day 3, what we're going to do is chant out the movie over and over and over again and write it down. So as we're saying it, we're writing it over and over again. You want to model to students that you have not planned all of this and rehearsed it over and over again to just set it aside and write it from memory. Instead, you're going to model, one day in my cozy house, my playful dog was startled by his fluffy tail. I'm using the movie script, I'm saying it over and over, using the ideas, the vocabulary. When I go to write, one evening, I'm showing the students how I'm saying it and writing it, saying it and writing it. I don't want to leave my movie script. The whole idea of a planner is to orally rehearse it until it sounds mastered. You can easily say it and you have the sentences formed. Now I'm ready to write. When I go from my organizer to my writing, I need to keep revisiting my organizer and saying those sentences I've formed here over and over and say it as I write. So I will model that in front of the students. After you have modeled this in front of the students, they can write it out as well. So they can practice that whole idea of saying it and writing it. Please don't have your modeled written movie script out for them to copy. You want them to take their movie script or take yours if you're the only one filling it in the first time, looking at it, saying it, and writing it down. Remember, after the first time you do a movie script, the second, third, and fourth time, the students and you together will be filling one out. And then after that, once you have the fifth movie and on, students will have that assigned as independent seat work or homework. After they have written this out, let's go to day 4. On day 4, we want to do circle and label the parts. This will help them with editing. And what you'll do is you want your students to see that they're going to circle the beginning sentence and the ending, and in this case, sentences, label beginning, middle, end. After they've labeled the parts, the beginning, middle, and end of their movie, then they go to the beginning and label what needs to be in the beginning, a setting, character, and action. Notice we have our S, we have our C for character, and our arrow for action. So we're looking at all those parts. When we have our middle of the story, what do we need? Transition, character, action. Oh, here's my transition. Here's my character, and now I can look at my characters and see, yes, I use different words. Here's my action. And you'll go through, here's my transition for the end, splat, character, mutt. Let's look at our characters, different words. And if you did have pup up here and dog up here and you use dog down here on the third or fourth sentence, that's fine to use the word again. You don't have to keep away from the same word throughout your entire story. It's just that you don't want them in the same sentence after sentence. And then what do we have? My silly mutt became dizzy and confused, then collapsed to the ground. So not only are you going to separate out beginning, middle, end to make sure you have all the different parts of the story, they're organized correctly, but then you're going to go into those sentences to make sure that you have all those different elements that are going to have sophisticated sentences with robust vocabulary. On day 5, you can model to the students how we're going to take different words and phrases to put up on our mentor text to anchor charts. I have an entire chapter on anchor charts. In this case, we've taken our setting, one evening inside my cozy house, and we can add that under our when and where anchor chart so that if they're writing their own stories, they can use those phrases in their own story. It's a great way to take words and phrases, record them under specific parts of, in this case, a narrative, the setting. Also, you can have transitions. So you'll take your transitions from your story and you can record them up on a transition wall for students then to use in their own stories. The anchor charts is a fabulous tool in which you can record words from your movie script onto those anchor charts, as well as words and phrases you've read in stories. We have day 1 through 5 of the movie script. The critical elements that you need to know from the movie script are the following. Number 1, when you introduce the movie script to the children, tell them this is like a Hollywood type of activity. In Hollywood, they draw out quick little beginning, middle, and end boxes in order to plan their stories. So they go from this movie in their head to actually being able to write the script. So that's why we have our movie script with the pictures first. After our pictures, then we're going to translate those pictures into powerful sentence writing, into movie scripts where you have the writing. And that's where we're going to show them the SC arrow, TC arrow, TC arrow. So this movie script is from Hollywood. It's movie script time. And every movie script has a beginning, middle, end. The beginning has SC arrow, the middle, TC arrow, the end, TC arrow. The secret formulas are going to teach us how to write sentences that tell about the beginning, middle, and end pictures. Turn to page 21. I already showed you how you will write out your movie scripts with actions. But you don't want to give kids a beginning, middle, and ending picture each week for their movies. At first, after they've learned how this activity works and they're independently writing their own movie scripts, you will give a beginning, middle, end picture for them to start with. What I suggest is eventually you give them just a beginning and a middle picture with no ending. And then after a while, you only give them a beginning picture. See, when you give them a beginning or a beginning middle picture, they have to come up with the ending. If you just give them a beginning picture, then they have to come up with a middle and an end. And finally, as the year goes on, just give them blank boxes at the top. They can come up with 3 pictures for a beginning, middle, and end, and then translate them into the secret formulas. So the whole idea of this activity is you're scaffolding with the ideas, giving them the pictures, and then slowly taking those pictures as weeks go by and they master this activity. You're giving them less and they have to create more.